Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today we are going to be working with some new stamps from the Ink Blot Shop. This is actually a guest post for them. The company's owned by my friend Tiffany and they're just super cute stamps. They don't have a backer in them, that's why I have a white piece of paper so you can see. But today we're going to be using Flopsy Birds Tiny Bubbles, which are 2 new sets, and then also Rainbow Promise, the Wonky Hearts die from Simon Says Stamp, and the Diagonal Stripe stencil from My Favorite Things. So I went ahead and die cut the heart out. I'm going to be using both of the pieces. There are so many just super cute little birds in this set. It's a huge set. This one particular stamp, these 2 birds in the heart are just one stamp, and I thought it would be adorable to use the little love you sentiment with those. So each time I stamp one of the characters, I'm also going to stamp them off on another piece of paper because I'm going to fussy cut them. I used a pencil to lightly outline the heart so I could see where I was going to be stamping, and I actually did this twice. This is the second card that I'm going to be making, and I'm getting just everything kind of stamped out. This isn't something you necessarily have to do. The leaves you have to do. Those are important. They're going to be in the background. But I mean, as far as stamping out your characters, if you're going to be fussy cutting or die cutting them out. However, I just work better that way for placement. This is the second heart that I outlined on a different card base. And then this one I'm going to have the leaves sticking out of. So, you can see I'm stamping those all. I'm just going around the outline of the heart so that there's little branches sticking out. This is ultimately what it looks like. I wanted to do, okay, so here's what happened. Basically, I wanted to do a background on both of them using this stencil. And as I was doing this, I literally, can you see how dark that blot is of this broken China Oxide ink? So I didn't really have a choice but to cover the entire thing. Then I went back in with faded jeans and just kind of went around the edge of the heart to make that part darker. But what ended up happening was I ended up with a background that I did not like at all. Not even a smidge. Not even a little bit. So I'm trying to work with it here. Basically, if you watch my channel, you know I never start over. Sometimes I might pitch it all together, but then I just let that idea go. So here I'm just going over it again with the same color so that I can get the stripes in the background. And at this juncture, I am ready to throw it in the can. But I started thinking about how it's not that it was a bad card, it just wasn't my style. And sometimes how we get stuck in these ruts of styles. And clean and simple is my style. Every once in a while I'll venture out into like a clean and layered, but very rarely do I do something as busy as that card. So I thought that even though I wasn't in love with it, and it had nothing to do with the stamps, it had everything to do with what I chose to do to it in the background. So I decided that maybe I would do a take on something that is clean and simple, something that is clean and layered, and something that is just layered, that is much busier, all with the same stamp set, all with the same products, to show not only you guys that, you know, you can use them all different ways, but also to kind of challenge myself to not throw those things in the garbage just because they're not really my style. So for the clean and simple card, which is the one we're doing here, I just used the broken china. I used a very, very light hand because I literally have no control over how much ink I pick up with these oxides. I have no idea why it's so hard for me. And then I stamped that out. Now, like I told you before, everything I was stamping on all of the cards, I was also stamping on this other piece, and I knew I wanted to add in the clouds, which is from that little bit of an older set, that Rainbow Promise. And now I'm going to do my Copic coloring. I knew that, obviously I had the broken china was my main color, so kind of like that tealish green, and so from there is how I picked my Copic colors about what I thought would look good with that. So here I picked some red violets. I'm doing pretty simple shading. This style of stamp, which is totally adorable. I mean, they have such character, and I love that. Isn't obviously conducive to realism coloring, which is totally fine. Not all stamps are, nor should they be. Again, it's a style thing. So I just did some really basic shading on this and left a little bit of a highlight on the wing so that it would be away from the body, and then add my darkest shadows next to the wing. I'm not really doing a light source in particular with this coloring. It looks really blended on the camera, but in reality it was not. RVs are hard. So if you have them at home, keep working with them. They can be very difficult to blend. I brought in that RV06 to kind of blend out between the RV09 and the RV04. For the heart, I did just super simple blending. I also stamped out a little bow, you'll see, so I can make one of my birds look a little more ladylike. These I just used, like I said, 3 colors, very, very simple, blended that out. And then I wasn't really sure what color to go with, we're going to color their beaks. All the beaks are the same color except for the 2 that are directly above this, and I will show you the colors when we get there. But anywho, again, very minimal shading on this. But I wasn't sure what color I wanted to go with for the opposite bird, because I already had like the teal broken china color, and I didn't want that to be the only like color that was in there. So I thought about a lime green, and then I realized I had all these leaves, so I opted for a more like true blue color. I'm not sure if that was the right choice in hindsight, but it was the choice that I made, and it is what it is. So basically I'm doing the same thing. I'm leaving that lighter edge around the wing so that it stands away from the body, adding some shading on his belly and around the back of his head. Definitely some shading more toward where the wing hangs over the center of his body. And like I said, I'm really not, using a light source per se. I guess if I had to say that there was one, it would probably be what we call a center. So if there was a spotlight directly on that heart, that would be how the light is shining on the 2 birds. The same blue combination I'm going to use for my other bird. If you watch my channel, you know I have a problem with being all matchy-matchy. And so even when I do cards that are similar, like how this is kind of like a 3-card set, all of the colors will match because I have to take photos of them all together and I cannot have them be non-matchy-matchy. I really have serious problems. So I'm doing the same thing with all of the Copic coloring. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I met Tiffany. So when I was in Columbus for Create with Simon Says Stamp, we had created take-its, which are very similar to make and takes. And Tiffany and I were at 2 tables next to each other. I'd never met her before. She was completely delightful. I went in the night before to set up my table because it was my first time I was ever doing a created take it or a make and take. And so I was a little nervous. I wanted to make sure everything was going to be ready in the morning. Plus, I'm not really a morning person, folks. Like, I need my coffee. Oh my, I need my coffee. So for this little bird here, I'm just doing a really simple 2 color blend. Even though it is a Y38 and a RV04, because the intensity is so similar, they still work together fine. And then for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I started off with the B23. Eventually, I'm going to switch to the B24, and then I'm using a V04, and they blended great as well. Anyway, so I walk in, Tiffany's there. It's probably like 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday or something, and she's setting up her booth, and I'm, setting up hers. If any of you have ever watched my Periscopes, or have met me in person, I am a little bit of a potty mouth. Okay, a lot bit. I have a t-shirt that says I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. And my sister was like, you need to cross out that little. So that's just me. And so I introduced myself to Tiffany. Hi, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, I own one of your stamp sets. They're super cute. So we're making small talk. And she was like, yeah, they were originally intended for Bible journaling. And I'm like, immediately I'm like, oh, but we're sitting next to each other and I'm scared because I'm probably going to offend her in some way, shape, or form. She was totally delightful. She really was. She was totally wonderful. She didn't bat an eyelash at any. I tried to be on my best behavior. Truly, I did. But she didn't even bat an eyelash when I wasn't on my best behavior. She totally hung in there like a trooper. She's amazing. So it was super nice to make a friend. You know, going, not that crafters it's so easy to make friends with because typically they're such wonderful people. But I just thought it was funny how we're not particularly similar in the way that we do things. But anyway, so for the clouds, if you've ever watched my videos before, this is not your first time seeing this. I like to use a gray marker to kind of accentuate the curls or indents that are already there. Then I like to add maybe some pink or some violet, blue greens to just kind of give them a little bit of life and a little bit of texture. So I'm doing that as well. And then I will blend that back out with a C1. So there's two different styles of clouds. And there's actually like a large and a small of each one in that Rainbow Promise set. Once all the coloring was done on these birds, I went back in with a white gel pen. I didn't add a ton of detailing. Typically, I add detailing in my own cards because they are so simple. They need a little bit of something. But because I have a clean and simple, a clean and layered, and then a layered, some of them really didn't need the detail. Some of them had enough going on that they didn't need any help to kind of shine. I prefer to outline all of my images with just a Copic safe marker. That's just my preference. I like a bold outline. Plus, I knew I was going to be fussy cutting these, and a bold outline is so much easier to cut out than a fine one. So I picked some greens, and I'm going to go ahead and just do very minimal blending on this particular card because it is the clean and simple one. So I just used the three colors, the 01, the 17, or I'm sorry, the 01, the 03, and the 17. For these other cards that are a bit busier, I didn't do any shading. What I did was I filled in some of the leaves with each of the colors. On this particular background, I didn't use any of the YG01 because it just wouldn't have shown up. It was a very dark background. For the other one, where it kind of has the highlight in the center, the color is lighter, I did use the YG01. And then I did outline all of these leaves because I am legitimately a psychopath. I have no other answer. So I did go back and stamp the little tiny bubbles, which is going to contain my sentiments for two of the cards. And I wanted to give them a little bit of depth as well. So I'm just adding some shadows with the C1 and the C3. For the round ones, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to make like little commas almost, so that it just gives them just a little teeny tiny bit of depth. For the sentiments, I'm switching from Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. I'm switching to the regular black ink. This is not Copic safe, which is why I needed to do my shading on my bubbles first. But it is a much crisper, much darker black ink, which I love for the sentiments. So I went ahead and stamped those, and then I fussy cut all of that out. Fussy cutting doesn't bother me because I've been doing it for so long. So if it's something that, I guess, I don't know, maybe you just get better at it with practice. If you have issues with it, you can always use a Memento Tuxedo black marker, or any water-based, you don't want to use an alcohol-based marker, to go around the edges of your fussy cut pieces, and it'll just kind of clean up any of those edges. Here, we're just finally to the actual building of the cards. We're finally to this stage. So I glued the birds down for this particular card flat, and then I'm going to pop up the heart. I'm not completely covering the back of the heart because I knew I wanted to slide some clouds behind it. So I'm putting that down with the little leaves around it, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere the clouds flat behind the heart. I could have done this beforehand, but the placement is just so much easier if the heart's already there. So I just used my Tombow Mono multi-glue and just kind of slid them back behind it. You saw I had to cut that one cloud, but it's no big deal because you're never going to see that part. Busted out the clear Wink of Stella because everything needs shimmer whether it's busy or not. And then for this one, I just added it to the birds. Here I have everything laid out on this particular piece, but nothing is glued down yet. I knew I wanted to pop up the panel, and that I wanted those clouds and the little thought bubbles to kind of be hanging over. So I'm adhering the parts to the the white heart die cut portion of it, so that when I flip it over, everything's already adhered and I can just add the foam adhesive to it. So I glued that one cloud down flat. For my birds, I am popping them up on Scotch foam tape. So one of the things that I love about that huge roll is A, it lasts like 100 years, but B, I can cut things down to the size. I don't have to worry about buying, small dots or big dots or any of that. I can just cut them down to the size that I want as I'm going. So totally love that stuff. I popped up both birds, and this one actually, I guess I do kind of delve into the clean and layered every once in a while, because this card I really liked the way that it came out. I didn't feel like it was too busy or too overwhelming, but that's probably because I have this huge area of white space with the heart that's cut out, so you don't see all of that pattern. So I have an easier time getting things straight if I turn them on the side, so forgive me if you couldn't see what was going on there. And then this one is done. Again, we're going to clear Winkostella all over the place because I love me some clear Winkostella. And then this is my punishment for being super lazy. This particular bird's feet actually were big enough to be colored, and I didn't do any masking when I stamped it. So he had a line through his feet, so I had to cut those out as well. The bird and the sentiment were both adhered with that same foam tape. And because it is a more clean and simple card, we're Winkostella everything. All the Winkostella everywhere. We're making it rain Winkostella. So then these are the 3 different cards. I still don't love the one on the right. That's my personal preference. Maybe you do. That's totally cool. I watch other people do it, and I'm like, that's amazing. And when I do it, I feel like I just took a bunch of stuff from my shelf and glued it to a piece of paper. But you can see that it's very easy to achieve 3 different styles with the same kind of products. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much to Tiffany for having me as a guest. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.